Pierce Brosnan is best known for playing James Bond, a suave, untouchable figure whose charm and danger captivated millions. He became the iconic spy not just because of his acting skills, but because of the emotional depth he carried, shaped by years of hardship. His life, however, has been anything but the glamorous existence that fans might assume. Behind the perfectly tailored tuxedo and polished public persona lies a story of loss, abandonment, and the search for belonging. Brosnan didn't become Bond because of what he survived, but because of it. The struggles of his early life, the loss of both parents, a series of rejections, and the grief of losing his wife to cancer deeply influenced the man who would become the world's most famous secret agent. A childhood marked by abandonment. Pierce Brosnan was born on May 16, 1953 in Drogheda, Ireland, to May Smith and Thomas Brosnan. His father abandoned the family before Pierce was old enough to form lasting memories, leaving his mother to fend for herself. May, a determined young woman, left for London to build a future and left Pierce in the care of his maternal grandparents. Pierce was still a toddler when he was handed over, never truly understanding why his parents weren't there. The absence of his mother, who was trying to build a career as a nurse, left an emotional void that would follow him for years. Despite the love and warmth of his grandparents, there was always a quiet, sharp pain, the unanswered question of why his parents weren't around. A life of displacement. The emotional displacement continued for Pierce as he was passed between family members. After his grandparents died, he moved in with an aunt and later a family friend. Each new home added to the feeling that he was never quite where he was meant to be. His life was filled with transitions, each one reinforcing the notion that he wasn't truly wanted. He was simply someone else's problem. At school, Pierce was the quiet, introspective boy who never seemed to fit in. He kept to himself, observing the world around him. He wasn't unkind, but he didn't have the security of family support to help him navigate the challenges of childhood. Art became his escape, not a passion, but a way to cope with a world that felt cold and indifferent. Finding his place in London. At the age of 10, Pierce's mother returned from London, having remarried and built a career. Pierce moved with her, hoping for some semblance of stability, but London felt like a strange, foreign city to him. His relationship with his mother, though she was his biological parent, was distant and unfamiliar. He described his time there with a simple but revealing sentence: "I was always the outsider." He had never felt truly at home, not in Ireland, not with his mother, and certainly not in a new city where everything seemed to move faster than he could catch up. This sense of being an outsider would define much of his adult life, but it would also shape him into a figure capable of inspiring admiration on a global scale, discovering possibility in an unlikely place. London in the late 1960s was a city full of energy and possibility, though it showed little interest in Pierce's quiet, displaced nature. He enrolled at the Elliott School in Putney, but academically, he was behind. Socially, he was invisible. But London offered one thing that Drogheda never could: possibility. At the age of 17, Pierce found himself performing fire eating in a small traveling circus, a job that was far from glamorous but transformative. For the first time in his life, people looked at him. He wasn't just a teenager trying to find his way. He was a performer, capturing the attention of strangers. That sense of being seen, however briefly, was a revelation. It was this experience that sparked something in Pierce, the desire to be noticed, to be seen as someone with potential. The making of Pierce Brosnan. Graduating in 1975, Pierce Brosnan began his acting career in the theater, taking on demanding roles and learning the craft. It wasn't an overnight success, but he was steadily carving out a place for himself in the industry. Then, in 1982, Pierce landed the role of Remington Steele, a charming private detective in the TV series of the same name. His performance was magnetic, effortlessly blending charisma and wit, making it impossible for audiences to look away. Remington Steele was a character that seemed tailor-made for Pierce, and his portrayal made him an instant television star, but the role that would define his career, James Bond, came with its own set of challenges, including the painful reality of losing it. Love and loss, the real price of success. Before Pierce could don the iconic tuxedo of James Bond, there was another chapter of his life that shaped him profoundly. In 1977, he met Cassandra Harris, a beautiful and intelligent Australian actress. They quickly became friends, and after Cassandra's first marriage ended, they fell in love. They married in 1980, and Pierce adopted her 2 children, Charlotte and Christopher, from her previous marriage. For Pierce, this act was more than just adopting a family. It was a way to create the stability and love he had never known. For the first time in his life, Pierce had a true sense of home. They went on to have a son, Sean, in 1983. But just as their life together seemed perfect, Cassandra was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 1987. Stepping away for love at 34 with a successful career on the rise, Pierce Brosnan stepped away from his professional ambitions to care for his wife. He was present in every way, taking her to treatments, sitting beside her, and holding their family together. In those quiet, difficult moments, Pierce found his true purpose. The world of fame and his success took a back seat to the love and dedication he had for his family. He was not just a husband and father, he was the quiet strength holding everything together. Cassandra's battle with cancer ended tragically in 1991, and Pierce was left to navigate the pain of losing the woman who had given him the family he had always longed for. A turning point in his career. After Cassandra's death, Pierce's grief was palpable, but it was also a turning point in his career. Though he had stepped away from his rising stardom to care for his family, the world had never stopped watching. The role of James Bond, which had once been denied to him, was now his for the taking. But Pierce's journey to Bond was never about simply getting the role. It was about reclaiming something much deeper. The loss, the pain, and the resilience he had shown in his personal life had made him the perfect man to portray the iconic spy. He wasn't just playing Bond, he was living the quiet strength that the character demanded. Bond and beyond Pierce Brosnan became the embodiment of James Bond, carrying with him the weight of his personal experiences and the depth of the character's emotional complexity. He portrayed a Bond who was more than just a suave, action-packed hero. He was a man who carried loss and resilience. Behind the tuxedo and the action scenes, there was a man who had survived the pain of abandonment, the grief of losing a loved one, and the struggle to find a place where he truly belonged. Brosnan's performance as Bond resonated with audiences not just because of his charm and charisma, but because of the raw humanity he brought to the role. He wasn't just a movie star. He was a man who had lived through what many never could imagine. Pierce Brosnan's legacy today. Pierce Brosnan is no longer the young, charming spy, but he carries the lessons of his life with him. He has been through unimaginable loss and hardship, and yet he has found a way to live with grace. His story is a reminder that behind every iconic figure lies a life of challenges, personal battles, and moments of quiet resilience. Pierce's journey from a lonely boy in Ireland to an international movie star is one of both triumph and tragedy, and it is a testament to the strength of the human spirit.